There's a pain almost all of us carry in silence. Someone hurt us, betrayed us, abandoned us, or disrespected us. And that wound doesn't heal with a phone block or by shouting into the void. It stays there deep inside, reminding us that human life is fragile, that relationships can hurt, and that resentment can become an invisible prison. The question I want to explore with you today is not how to take revenge or how to forget, but how to deal with the one who hurt you without losing your peace, your dignity, or your purpose. My name is Gabriel, and I've been studying and practicing Stoicism as a philosophy of life for more than 15 years. In that time, I've walked alongside hundreds of people around the world, and if there's one thing I've seen again and again, it's that pain isn't healed by impulse, but by wisdom. Today I want to sit with you, the way a close friend would on a quiet afternoon, and share 15 lessons from Stoic philosophy, psychology, spirituality, and lived experiences that can transform the way you face those who tried to break you. I won't promise you that everything will be easy, or that by the end of this journey you'll never feel pain again. But I can assure you that if you walk with me through this reflection, you'll discover that you don't need to lower yourself, beg, or react with hate. There is another way to deal with the one who hurt you, a way that honors your peace, your self-respect, and your freedom. Let's begin. Number 1. 72 hours of active silence. They say silence means consent, but I learned that, in the midst of pain, silence means survival. I'm not talking about the kind of resigned silence that swallows bitterness, but an active, conscious, strategic silence. Do you know why I start here and not with the classic advice of forgive and move on? Because what your wounded mind wants first isn't forgiveness, it's reaction. And silence is the antidote to that poison. When someone hurts you, your brain sounds the alarm as if you were standing in front of a fire. Adrenaline, anger, sadness, fear, all mixed together in an explosive cocktail. In that state, what kind of decisions can you make? The worst ones. I myself fell more than once into the trap of responding right away, sending messages I later regretted, saying things I never would have said if I had just waited a few hours. After one of those mistakes, I decided to try something radical. 72 hours of active silence. What does that mean? It's not about pretending to be strong or locking yourself in bitterness. It's about giving yourself permission not to respond, not to explain, not to demand immediate justice for 3 days. I learned it the hard way, after receiving a message dripping with venom. My fingers were flying over the keyboard, but something inside me whispered, "Wait." I wrote the reply, saved it as a draft, and didn't send it. I went for a walk, breathed deeply, and did what Epictetus recommended, remembering that it's not events that harm us, but the way we interpret them. When I came back to that message 3 days later, the storm had passed. And guess what? I deleted it completely. In those 72 hours, you give yourself a gift. You return to the center of your own life. Silence isn't emptiness. It's fertile ground where your mind can reset. It's like leaving a wound alone so it can heal. And every time you manage to keep that silence, your brain learns that you don't need to react in order to survive. Try it. Take a deep breath. Write what you want to say, but don't send it. Wait 72 hours. If after that time you still think it matters, you'll see it in a different light and with a steadier pulse. And if you choose to stay silent, it won't be weakness, it will be power. Because believe me, sometimes the wisest thing you can say to the one who hurt you is absolutely nothing. Your peace is worth more than any message. Number 2, justice is not revenge. Here's where I want to step into delicate ground. The confusion between justice and revenge. When someone hurts us, the first thing that rises up isn't serenity, it's that burning desire to make them pay, to hit them where it hurts the most. And while it may feel logical, that reaction is a trap. Revenge is like drinking poison while waiting for the other person to collapse. In the end, the one who gets poisoned is you. Let me tell you something that happened to me years ago. Someone very close betrayed me in a way I never could have imagined. I remember fantasizing about revenge, exposing them, humiliating them, showing everyone who they really were. Days went by. and all I gained from those fantasies was sleepless nights, poor meals, and feeling smaller and smaller. Then I came across a line from Marcus Aurelius that shook me. "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's when I understood. Justice wasn't about striking back. Justice was about keeping my dignity intact. Picture a courtroom inside you. 3 judges sitting there. Reason, virtue, and consequences. The first asks, is what you're planning reasonable or just an impulse? The second challenges you. Does this honor the values you want to live by? And the third warns, what will this bring? Peace or more chains? I invite you to pass every desire for revenge through that inner court. You'll see how most of those plans collapse instantly because they can't hold the weight of reason or virtue. Justice, from a Stoic perspective, isn't about making the other person suffer. It's about not losing your own integrity. Life itself, time, and the natural consequences of others' actions, those are judges that never fail. And when you understand this, you can release the obsession with getting even. Let me ask you an uncomfortable question. What do you prefer, to be right or to be at peace? Because often, the two don't walk together. And if you choose peace, you'll also be choosing the highest form of justice, not letting someone else's pain turn you into the very thing that hurt you. So the next time the poison of revenge burns inside you, remember, you're not an executioner. You're a builder of your own life. You don't need to crawl into the mud to prove your worth. True justice is living without losing your center, even if the other person drowns in their own chaos. Number 3, clear boundaries without a fight. There's a common belief that setting boundaries means yelling, arguing, or fighting. Nothing could be further from the truth. Boundaries aren't about volume or brute force. They're about clarity and consistency. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that when a boundary is well set, it doesn't need violence. It stands on its own. Think about this. What happens when a door has a strong lock? Nobody needs to hear a lecture on security. All it takes is feeling the resistance. Emotional boundaries work the same way. They're not endless explanations. They're not sermons. They're short phrases backed by consistent actions. I remember a time when someone close to me tried to pressure me into something that would have harmed me. My blood was boiling, but instead of arguing, I took a breath and calmly said, "I'm not going to talk about this. If you insist, I'll step away from the conversation." And I followed through. No fight, no insults, just a clear boundary. The key lies in 3 elements: a simple phrase, a neutral tone, and a practical consequence. No drama, no frills. A boundary isn't a threat. It's a reminder that you decide how you show up in a relationship. And believe me, it hurts the other person more to face your calm firmness than your shouting. Shouting fuels conflict. Calmness dries it up. Now I want to suggest something. Let's practice together. Imagine that the person who hurt you comes back with the same old demands. Your response is, "I'm not available for this kind of treatment." Short, direct, no detours. You don't need to justify, persuade, or beg. Just stand in your dignity. And let me take a moment to ask you something. If these words resonate with you, subscribe to the channel right now so we can keep walking this journey together. Leave a like to let me know this content is serving you, and tell me in the comments what country you're connecting from. It excites me to see how this community is growing across so many places in the world, because every comment you leave also helps others learn. Always remember, setting boundaries isn't walking away from love. It's walking closer to peace. A clear boundary doesn't need a fight. It needs your firm decision and your commitment to yourself. In the end, those who respect their own limits learn to live their lives with dignity. Number 4, forgiving is not going back. Here's where I want us to make a precise distinction. Many people believe that forgiveness means reconciliation, embracing the one who hurt you again, or reopening the door of trust. But no, that's a mistake that keeps pain alive. Forgiving is not going back. Forgiving is cleansing your soul of a weight that drags you down. Forgiveness doesn't always lead to reconciliation, and it certainly doesn't mean offering your cheek again to be struck. I remember Elena's case, a woman who shared her story in one of my workshops. Her partner had let her down time and time again. With her immense faith in love, she forgave and went back. But each return was harsher, each wound cut deeper. Until one day she realized she could forgive without going back. And when she did, her life changed. She stopped carrying hatred, but she also stopped exposing her heart to the same pain. That's when I understood that forgiveness is soul hygiene, not a return ticket to prison. The Bible puts it with striking clarity. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Romans 12:18. Look closely. If it is possible. It isn't always possible. Peace doesn't mean opening your door to just anyone. It means locking it when necessary. The peace you choose is with God, with yourself, with life, not with someone determined to keep hurting you. I want you to see forgiveness as an act of personal cleansing. Just as you sweep your home and take out the trash even if your neighbor keeps dumping garbage, you can also clear your heart even if the other person never changes. Forgiveness is yours. It's your way of saying, you won't poison me anymore. Let me ask you, how many times have you confused forgiveness with permission? Maybe, like Elena, you ended up giving away your dignity in the name of love. But true self-love begins when you realize you can forgive wholeheartedly and still shut the door firmly. Forgiving is not going back, it's setting yourself free. And sometimes the greatest act of love toward yourself is this: saying a definitive goodbye, hand in hand with a peaceful heart. Because real forgiveness doesn't bind you, it releases you. Number 5, don't explain yourself over chat. Let me tell you something you probably already suspect. Chat is the worst place to try to heal deep wounds. It has no tone, no pauses, no eye contact, and worst of all, it multiplies misunderstandings. What you write calmly, the other person may read in anger. What you send with pain, they may interpret as an attack. And so the wound reopens again and again. It happened to me one night. I had received a message full of reproaches, and in a burst of pride, I sat down to respond. Long paragraphs, arguments, justifications. It all felt so solid, so reasonable. I hit send and went to bed thinking I had closed the matter. When I woke up, I found a reply that was even harsher, colder, more hurtful. That's when I realized too late. Chat doesn't heal. It only multiplies confusion. Since then, I've adopted a ritual. The letter you won't send. Write everything you want to say, without filters, with all the emotion you're carrying inside. Don't hold back. Let out the anger, the sadness, the frustration. When you're done, set it aside. 48 hours later, read it again. I promise you'll see it differently. Many times you'll realize you don't need to send it because what you really needed was to let it out, not to communicate. And if it's still worth sharing, you'll reshape it into 3 clear lines, free of excess. This exercise isn't weakness, it's emotional maturity. Because sometimes real power isn't in replying, but in knowing when to stay quiet and how to process what you feel. Marcus Aurelius spoke about the importance of taming our first impressions, and the same applies here. Don't let impulse guide your fingers on the keyboard. Let me ask you something. How many times have your messages ended up saying more than you meant? Or worse, something you didn't mean at all? Probably more than once. That's because when we write with a stirred-up heart, ink turns into fire. Don't explain yourself over chat. Your dignity doesn't fit into a digital paragraph. Your silence, your calm voice, or even your choice not to reply say more than 1,000 messages. Remember, the one who feels the need to justify themselves endlessly loses strength. The one who knows how to guard their words gains power. Number 6, the master reframe. When someone hurts you, the most natural reaction is to get stuck on a single thought. Why did they do this to me? That, to me, becomes an anchor that keeps you chained to pain. But Stoicism offers a key to unlock that cell: reframing. It's not about denying what happened or sugarcoating it. It's about looking at it from a different angle until it no longer controls you. I lived this myself through a betrayal that kept me awake at night. Every evening I replayed the scene, like a movie on endless repeat. Until one day I decided to change the question. Instead of "why me?" I asked, What does this show me about the person who did it? And then I realized something obvious. It wasn't about them doing it to me. They acted from who they were, from their character, their emptiness, their miseries. That simple reframing freed me from carrying guilt that wasn't mine. Psychologists talk about the ABC model, activating event, belief, consequence. What happens doesn't define how you feel. What defines it is the belief you build around it. And that's where your power lies. If you believe this destroys me, you'll live destroyed. If you believe this shows me who they are, not what I'm worth, you'll find strength. Reframing doesn't change the past, but it transforms your present. Epictetus put it this way: it's not events that disturb us, but the opinions we hold about them. I remember reading that line in a fit of anger, and instead of feeling inspired, I got even angrier. I thought, easy to say when you're not the one hurt. But as days went by, I realized it wasn't an invitation to deny my pain. It was a call to see it through another lens, not to minimize it, but to stop giving it control. Here's an exercise. Imagine the painful story playing on a screen, and now someone else narrates it in a neutral voice, like a documentary. What changes? You'll notice the intensity drops. You're no longer the protagonist, you become the observer. And from there, you can choose another interpretation, less damaging, more realistic. Ask yourself, what if I stop seeing this as something against me and start seeing it as something that reveals who the other person is? That shift is the master reframe. It doesn't take away the pain, but it does return your freedom. And believe me, your true healing begins in that freedom. Number 7. First, your nervous system. Before any words, before any philosophical reflection, the very first thing you need to take care of is your body. When someone hurts you, your nervous system lights up as if a tiger were chasing you. The strange thing is, there is no tiger, just a memory, a message, a scene. But the body doesn't know the difference. Your breathing quickens, your heart races, your muscles tighten. If you try to speak, decide, or reflect in that state, chances are the worst of you will come out. I learned this the day I had to face a difficult conversation. I had prepared phrases, I had meditated, I had even prayed. But when I opened my mouth, my body shook, my voice broke. That's when I realized, before any philosophy, I had to calm the storm inside my own body. From then on, I adopted a simple routine for moments like that. First, I breathe. Inhale while counting to 4. Exhale while counting to 6. That longer exhale tells your body, the danger is gone. Then I walk, even if just around my house, but with awareness in every step, as if each movement was sweeping away the tension. And finally, I do a sensory anchor. I notice 3 things I can see, 2 things I can hear, and 1 thing I can touch. That way, I force my mind to come back to the present instead of getting stuck in the storm. It may sound simple, but it's powerful. I proved it when, after doing this routine, I was able to speak to that person without my voice shaking, and most importantly, without losing my inner calm. That was the first time I understood that the body is also part of philosophy. The Stoics sought mastery over themselves, and that begins with learning how to tame this wild horse we call the nervous system. I invite you to try it. The next time anger or sadness consumes you, don't run to the phone, don't run to words. Stop, breathe, walk, anchor your senses. Do it even if it feels silly. You'll see how your energy shifts in just minutes. And let me ask you, how many arguments you now remember with pain would have been different if you had calmed your body first? Probably many, because sometimes it's not what we say, it's where we say it from. If we speak from the storm spreads. But if we speak from calm, even silence becomes a refuge. Number 8, a dignified closure in 2 minutes. Some conversations don't need to last hours, days, or weeks. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is design a short, clear, and dignified closure. It's not about winning the argument or landing the last verbal blow. It's about leaving a period at the end of the sentence that doesn't destroy your peace or make you feel diminished. 2 minutes are enough for that. I learned this lesson the hard way. For a long time, I thought closing a chapter with someone who had hurt me required long explanations, arguments, even attempts to convince them of their mistake. But experience showed me the opposite. The more I explained, the more I opened the door to manipulation, the more I got tangled in the web, until I tried simplicity. Once, standing before someone who had crossed all my boundaries, I said only this: "I wish you the best, but I'm moving on." And I left. No shouting, no reproaches, just a short phrase and a firm step forward. A dignified closure has 3 elements: facts, boundaries, and a sober goodbye. It might sound like this: "What happened hurt me. I'm not willing to repeat it. I wish you peace, but I won't continue in this relationship." Notice: no insults, no sarcasm, no endless accusations, just clarity and an end. One more detail: tone is everything. You don't need to sound like a judge or a victim, but like someone who has already decided. And here's something curious. A touch of light, elegant humor can sometimes diffuse the tension. It happened to me once, when I ended with a slight, "And don't worry, I won't send you the long version by email." That spark of irony, without venom, lowered the temperature and let me walk away with my head held high. I suggest you rehearse your closure. Write it down, read it aloud, time it for 2 minutes. If you go over, it means you're justifying too much. A dignified closure is like placing a period: short, sober, and final. And let me leave you with this reflection. How much of your energy have you wasted on endless explanations that changed nothing? Probably too much. It's time to try another strategy. Because dignity isn't measured by how many words you spoke, but by how many you knew to hold back. A 2-minute closure might be the most liberating decision of your life. Number 9. Break the rumination. Some wounds don't bleed on the outside, but inside your head, they're like a constant drip that won't let you sleep. That's rumination, replaying the scene, the insult, the betrayal over and over. And I know it well, because I spent entire nights replaying someone's words in my mind, inventing clever comebacks I never said, rehearsing arguments that only existed in my imagination. In the end, all I gained was insomnia and exhaustion. Rumination is like an old washing machine. It spins and spins, but never finishes the cycle. And the brain, in its attempt to solve, only tangles you further. The key? Break the loop. And I discovered a ritual that saved me during one of the hardest seasons of my life: the nighttime window for mental closure. Before bed, I take a sheet of paper and write 3 lines: what happened, how I felt, and what I learned from it that day. Nothing more. Then I folded the paper, put it in a drawer, and whispered to myself, "For today, I've worked through it." Tomorrow, I move on with my life, and as if it were a deal with my own mind, my brain understood there was nothing left pending. That night, I slept better. A psychologist I once spoke with explained that the mind needs symbols to close processes. It's not enough to just say, "I won't think about this anymore." You need a physical, concrete act. It might be writing, lighting a candle and blowing it out as a sign of "that's enough," or even closing a notebook firmly. Those gestures tell your nervous system the cycle is over. I remember one night when I felt trapped in thoughts of betrayal. I decided to do my 3-line ritual, put the paper away, and took a deep breath. That was the first time in weeks I slept 7 straight hours. It was as if my brain had finally received permission to rest. Now I want you to think, how many times has your pain lasted not because of what happened, but because of what you kept replaying inside you? Breaking rumination is like untying the rope that keeps your mind tied to the same post. Do your nightly ritual, create your closure symbol. It doesn't matter if it seems simple or even childish. If it works, it's practical wisdom. Because peace doesn't always arrive through grand revelations. Sometimes it comes with a folded piece of paper in a drawer and a whispered phrase, "For today, I've worked through it." Number 10. Protection and real consequences. There's a very common mistake when people talk about Stoicism, believing it means putting up with everything, swallowing pain, and wearing a stone face. No, that's not Stoicism, that's resignation in disguise. A true Stoic knows how to distinguish between what must be accepted and what must be firmly confronted. And when someone crosses certain lines, pretty phrases and meditations aren't enough. That's where protection and real consequences come in. Let me be clear. If there's violence, harassment, or serious manipulation, your duty is not to be strong in silence. Your duty is to protect yourself. That may mean blocking, documenting what's happening, asking for help from a third party, or even going through legal channels if necessary. And yes, I know, many times it feels scary, shameful, or too much. But believe me, inner calm is also built by knowing you are not defenseless in the face of the unacceptable. I remember someone telling me how she had spent months receiving hurtful messages and calls at all hours from someone who wouldn't take no for an answer. She thought Stoicism meant enduring and moving on. But in reality, her life was shrinking. The day she decided to file a report and cut all communication, she told me, "I felt like I got my home and my head back." That's when I understood that sometimes the wisest consequence isn't internal, but external and decisive. Here's a simple checklist for those moments when the line between normal conflict and real harm gets blurry. Ask yourself, is there risk to my physical or emotional safety? Is this happening repeatedly? Have my attempts at dialogue been ignored or mocked? If you answer yes to 2 of these 3 questions, it's not time for phrases, it's time for action. The Stoics spoke of living according to nature, and the nature of a human being is not to be anyone's punching bag. It's to protect their dignity and safeguard their integrity. Don't confuse temperance with tolerating the intolerable. So remember this. Asking for help is not weakness, it's wisdom. Setting real consequences is not revenge, it's practical justice. And when you do it, your silence, your boundaries, and your inner peace stop being theory and become a solid refuge. Because your life, believe me, is worth far more than the discomfort of taking a firm step. Number 11. Return the package. There's an image that completely changed the way I see offenses. Thinking of every grievance as a package. Someone knocks on your door and hands you a box full of emotional trash. You have 2 options. Accept it and store it in your living room, or hand it back calmly and close the door. What we usually do without realizing it is accept the package, open it, look at it over and over, and even place it at the center of the table. And of course, the whole house starts to stink. Let me share a story I heard years ago and never forgot. A wise man was being insulted by an angry visitor. The sage listened in silence, and when the man finished, he asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, whose gift is it?" The visitor replied, "The one who brought it." "It's the same with your anger," said the sage. "I don't accept it, so it's still yours." That story gave me a key insight. I don't have to carry everything that's handed to me. Now imagine that every harsh word, every slight, every betrayal is that package. What do? You acknowledge it, hold it for a moment, and then return it calmly. It's not about denying it or pretending it never happened. It's about deciding you won't keep it inside. In my own life, I've practiced this in simple ways. Writing the offense on a piece of paper and tearing it up, throwing a stone into a river as a symbol of letting go, or even closing a physical door while quietly saying, "This isn't mine." I invite you to practice it with a symbolic gesture. It may seem small, but your brain understands these acts. It's like sending it a clear message. I don't accept what doesn't belong to me. And little by little, you stop carrying bags of trash that were never yours. Think about this. How many packages do you have piled up in your inner house? Maybe you've been storing boxes for years without even opening them, and yet they still weigh down your soul. Today, you can start giving them back. Because in the end, the real power isn't in stopping people from bringing you trash. That's not always up to you. The real power is in making sure it doesn't stay in your home. And when you learn to return the package calmly, the offense loses its poison, and you regain space for what truly deserves to live in your life. Number 12. Amor fati, with scars. Here I want to talk to you about a Stoic principle that can sound harsh at first. Amor fati, loving your fate, even with its wounds. It doesn't mean applauding what was done to you or justifying the unjustifiable. It means looking back and saying, "This hurt me, it marked me, but I choose to do something with it instead of staying stuck." Because in the end, what happened is already part of your story. What you decide to do with it is what makes the difference. I remember a class where I met an older woman who moved me deeply. She told me that after a cruel abandonment in her youth, she had spent years feeling broken, worthless. But one day, tired of living in that dark place, she began giving talks in her community to other women going through the same thing. She turned her pain into a bridge so others wouldn't feel alone. Her scar became a lamp. That's the power of Amor fati. Not erasing, but redefining. The Stoics spoke of facing all that life brings with courage, even the painful parts. And here's where a decision comes in. Do you want your wound to be a chain or a teacher? When I went through a betrayal that shattered me, for months all I could think about was how unfair it was. But over time, with practice, I discovered that wound taught me to choose my companions more carefully, to value myself more, and to depend less on others' approval. It wasn't immediate, but eventually I understood that even scars can be compasses. Here's a simple but profound exercise. Take a sheet of paper and write down the deepest wound you still carry. Then, underneath, write 3 things you learned from it, even if they're small. Maybe you discovered your resilience. Maybe you learned how to spot red flags earlier. Maybe you realized what you'll never accept again. That's Amor fati. Not denial, not romanticizing, but integration. Ask yourself, what can I do with this scar to make it useful? To make it the seed of something new? It might be sharing your story with someone in pain. It might be writing. It might simply be choosing to live more wisely. The important thing is not to let that mark be only a symbol of suffering. Make it a symbol of transformation too. Because in the end, your scars don't make you weak. They make you human, real, and strong. And when you choose to love them as part of your destiny, you stop fighting the past and start building from it. That's the true triumph of Amor fati, turning the wound into a path. Number 13, speak with those who add value. When someone hurts you, the temptation is to tell your story to anyone who will listen. Friends, family, neighbors, even the taxi driver. And yes, venting is necessary, but if you do it carelessly, you end up feeding the pain instead of easing it. It's not about staying silent all the time, but about choosing who you share your wound with. Because not every ear deserves your tears, and not every company brings you peace. I went through this myself during a difficult season. I told my pain to several people, and each one gave me different advice. Some said, go back, give them another chance. Others, cut them off forever. Others, make them pay. The result? More confusion, more noise in my head. Until one day, I decided to speak only with 3 people. Someone who could listen without judgment, someone with practical wisdom, and someone who had known me for years. That small circle gave me clarity and relief. There's a proverb in the Bible that always stays with me. Whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. Proverbs 17:9. It's not about hiding what hurts, but about choosing discretion and love as the foundation of your words. If you share your pain with people who will use it to criticize, to spread gossip, or to manipulate you, you'll end up wounded twice. Talking with those who add value is like choosing medicine. You don't swallow just anything you find on the table, you look for what actually heals you. So what should you ask for when you speak? Not a sermon, not quick fixes, but listening. Sometimes the only thing we need is someone to hold the silence while we let go of the weight. I invite you to draw this map. Think of 3 names. One person who brings you calm, another who gives you perspective, and another who reminds you who you are at your best. That's your support triangle. The rest may be good acquaintances, but they're not your refuge in the storm. Let me ask you, how many times did you feel more confused after telling your story to just anyone? Maybe it's time to practice the wisdom of choosing. Because talking does free you, but talking with those who add value transforms you. And when you choose well, you'll discover that a conversation can be medicine or poison. The choice is yours. Number 14, rewrite your identity. When someone hurts you, you run the risk of clinging to a label. I'm the abandoned one. I'm the cheated one. I'm the one who wasn't worth it. Those phrases, even if you don't say them out loud, get etched onto you like invisible tattoos. And the worst part is that if you don't question them, you start living from them, as if your entire identity were the wound. But you are not that. You are much more than the harm someone caused you. I've been there. There was a time when I defined myself as the one who was betrayed. Every decision I made, every new relationship, was stained by that shadow. Until one day, reading Seneca, I came across an idea that shook me. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. I realized my wound wasn't a sentence, it was a test, and I could choose a different story. From then on, I began an exercise I still practice today, the Virtue Journal. Each day, I wrote down a small example of prudence, justice, courage, or temperance in my life. It didn't matter if it was something tiny, like saying no calmly, or enduring a provocation without exploding. Those notes, day after day, built a new narrative. I was no longer the betrayed one. I was someone cultivating virtue. I want to suggest you try something similar. Write your new name for this stage of life. It could be something like the one who learned to set boundaries, the one who no longer lets himself be stepped on, the one who chose peace. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be true for you. Repeat it, write it down, weave it into your daily life. Because identity isn't a fixed destination, it's a story in constant revision. Ask yourself, what story do I want to tell myself starting today? If you keep repeating the role of victim, you'll live it. If you start telling yourself you're resilient, wise, someone who has learned, then your mind and your actions will align with that script. Rewriting your identity doesn't mean denying the past. It means deciding it doesn't define you. Your scars are part of the book, yes, but they're not the title. And when you understand that, you begin to walk lighter, carrying a story that belongs to you, not to the one who hurt you, because the greatest power you have is not changing what happened, but changing the who I am you choose to repeat each day. Number 15. 90 days of practical peace. We've reached the end of this journey, and I want to leave you with something concrete, something you can apply step by step. Because reflecting is one thing, but integrating those reflections into your daily life is another. That's why I propose a 90-day plan of practical peace. It's not a magic formula, it's a set of small, repeated actions that, over time, change how you live with pain and how you relate to yourself. The first month is for emotional hygiene. During those 30 days, the focus isn't on the other person, it's on you. This is the time to remove triggers. Stop checking photos, messages, or social media of the one who hurt you. Create a small ritual of closure. Delete what needs to be deleted. Put away what you don't want to see, and fill that space with activities that nourish you. Even simple ones. Reading something uplifting, walking, listening to calming music. The second month is for consolidation. Here you set clear contact rules, even if the rule is no contact at all. Write them down, even on a scrap of paper you keep in your wallet. That way, you won't improvise when temptation or fear shows up. This is also where you begin to measure your progress with objective signs. Did you sleep better? Did you find yourself laughing more often? Have you stopped thinking about that person every hour? These are indicators that your peace is returning. The third month is for expansion. Now it's no longer just about healing the wound, it's about returning to life. Reintegrate activities you'd put aside. Pick up a hobby again. Connect with new people. Dare to plan something for the future, even something small. The goal here is that your life no longer revolves around the hurt, but around your purpose. This is the step where you confirm that your peace isn't just theory, it's lived experience. I tried this myself after a breakup that knocked the air out of me. 90 days may sound short, but I promise that by the end, I felt different. Not because the pain had disappeared completely, but because it was no longer at the center of my life. I discovered I could smile again, plan again, feel in charge of my days again. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if 3 months from now, you could look back and say, it no longer controls me? That's the goal, not to erase what happened, but to strip it of its power. And if you commit to this plan day by day, you'll see peace shift from being a dream into becoming a practice. 90 days, 3 months, a new chapter. That's the gift you can give yourself today. Because yes, the wound marked you, but it has no right to dictate your destiny. Your peace is yours, and in these 90 days, you can begin to reclaim it. We've walked together through 15 lessons that aren't empty theory, but real paths to deal with those who hurt you without losing your peace. We spoke of silence as the first refuge, of justice that isn't confused with revenge, of setting clear boundaries without the need for a fight. We discovered that forgiving doesn't mean going back, that chat isn't a place for healing, and that reframing can free you from guilt that was never yours. We saw how to calm the nervous system before speaking, how to close with dignity in just 2 minutes, and how to break the rumination that steals your sleep. We also understood that there are moments when protection requires real consequences, and that we can return the package of offense instead of carrying it inside. And, on a deeper level, we learned to look at our scars with Amor, fati, to speak only with those who add value, to rewrite our identity, and to give ourselves a concrete 90-day plan for practical peace. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you from the heart. It isn't easy to stay with such an intense reflection for so long, but it speaks of your commitment to your own growth. You are a vital part of this community, the Stoic Garden, a space where we seek to recover dignity, self-love, and serenity, even in the midst of the deepest wounds. I want to ask you something special. Write in the comments which country you're connecting from, because I love to see how this garden fills with voices from so many corners of the world. And also, leave me a phrase that seals what we learned today. I'll suggest this one: my well-being is sacred. Write it with strength, so it becomes a living reminder of what you've decided from today on. Share this video with a friend, a sister, or someone close who is suffering. You never know when a single word might be the encouragement someone else needs. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Thank you for trusting in this intimate and deep conversation. I'm Gabriel, and this channel, The Stoic Garden, exists to remind you that it's still possible to live with wisdom, with courage, and with serenity. Right here on the screen, you'll see 2 more videos I know you'll find meaningful. Choose one and keep cultivating your peace, because wisdom isn't a destination, it's a path we walk day by day.